Hello students, welcome to the biology class. Today we are going to discuss our chapter 17th, that is breathing and exchange of gases from the same unit of human physiology. So first, what is respiration? Respiration is the oxidation of nutrients, which may be glucose, which may be fat, which may be protein in the living cell to release energy, that is in the form of ATP, for biological work, that is carrying out the various metabolic activities of our body. What is breathing? Breathing is a simple biophysical process in which the exchange of O2 from the atmosphere with the CO2 produced by the cell. Or you can simply say the breathing is intake of oxygen and exhale of CO2 from the body. So every living organism, they have a specific respiratory organs. For example, that is lower invertebrates like sponges, like coelenterate and the flatworms, they are having a general body surface as the respiratory organ through which the exchange of gases takes place. The animals like that is earthworm, then it is a leech, and the amphibians which lives both in the water and the land, they respire through the skin or moist cuticle, and the name of that respiration is cutaneous respiration. The example of insects, centipede, millipede, spider, they respire with the help of a air sac, that is an opening through which the air enters, and they are having a tracheal tubes. So that is your grasshopper, you are having insects and millipede and centipedes and spider. The animal like fish, they respire with the help of a very special respiratory organ that is known as the gills. Tadpole, which are the young ones of the frog, as well as the prawn, which is a arthropod but lives in the water, they respire through the gills, and the mode of respiration is known as the branchial respiration. The animals, that is most of the vertebrates like human being as well as the mammals like a cat, they respire through the lungs, and the mode of respiration is pulmonary respiration. So now we will discuss about the human respiratory system. Human respiratory system is divided into two parts, that is air tract, air passage, through which the air is going to be intake, and the main organ, the respiratory organ of the human being is the lungs, that is a paired lungs. So first we are going to discuss the air passage, the various parts of air tract, that is also known as the conducting part. So it transports the atmospheric air to the alveoli, which is the balloon sac-like structure. It clears the air from the foreign particle. It humidifies and brings the air to the body temperature. So the first is, that is the pathway, external nostrils, then there is a nasal passage, then nasal chambers, it is also being known as the nasal cavities, then nasopharynx, glottis, it is an opening to your trachea, larynx, it is known as your sound box, trachea, that is your windpipe. Then we are having a primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, then bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, respiratory bronchiole, and ends into the alveolar duct. So each terminal bronchiole give rise to many thin and vascularized alveoli. Vascularized alveoli means they are being surrounded by the blood capillaries. So the first we are having the larynx, it is the sound box or the voice box, is a cartilaginous box, that is the sound box, it is called as a larynx, and it is a cartilaginous box which helps in the sound production. During swelling, that is glottis, that is the opening, is closed by or covered by a cartilaginous flap-like structure known as epiglottis to prevent the entry of food into the larynx or to the windpipe. Trachea or all bronchi, initial bronchioles are supported by the incomplete C-shaped cartilaginous rings. So these are the C-shaped cartilaginous rings so that they should not collapse even after the exhaled of the CO2. So the next we are having the paired lungs, that is your lungs are situated in the thoracic cavity or the chamber resting on the muscular dome-like structure that is known as the diaphragm. Right lung has three lobes, 1, 2 and 3, and the left it is having only two lobes. Each lung is being covered by or surrounded by double layered pleura. Outer parietal and inner is visceral, and the pleural fluid present in between these two layers which lubricate the surface means prevent it from the friction between the membrane. So lungs is equal to bronchi and here and bronchioles and alveoli. So alveoli is the structural and the functional unit of lung and their ducts where the exchange of the gases takes place because they are thin walled, they are permeable to the respiratory gases that is O2 and CO2 and through which the exchange of the gases takes place and they are highly vascularized. So the steps of respiration means the various mechanism which takes place during the respiration. The first step is pulmonary ventilation. In the simple way we can say that is the breathing. Then the exchange gases between the lung alveoli and the blood. Then gas transport, that is O2 and CO2. Gas exchange between the blood and tissues and the cellular tissue respiration. So these steps we will discuss one by one. The first is mechanism of breathing. What is breathing? That is the intake of O2 and release of CO2. The intake of O2, that is air from atmosphere into the lungs, is known as inspiration. And passive expelling of air from the lungs, that is known as expiration. So breathing is divided into two phases, that is inspiration and expiration. So first we will take what is inspiration. So during the inspiration, the diaphragm, that is the muscular dome-like structure on which the lungs are resting, they contract and they become flattened. Then vertical volume or the anterior posterior that axis increase. Along with the contraction of diaphragm, the external intercostal muscles. So these are the intercostal muscles. They are also going to contract. Ribs, these are the ribs. So we are having a 12 pairs of the ribs. This is the sternum that is in between the ribs and the volume in the dorsoventral axis that is going to increase. So with the, you can say the flattening of diaphragm, with the contract of external intercostal muscles, with the upliftment of ribs and the sternum, the volume of the dorsoventral axis that is going to increase. Because of that, the thoracic volume is going to increase, whereas pressure is going to decrease. And because of that, the lungs expand and the pulmonary volume increases, whereas the intrapulmonary pressure that is going to decrease. Because of increase in the volume and decrease in the pressure, the air moves from outside into the lungs because of the difference in the pressure gradient. The next is expiration, that is intercostal muscle and diaphragm, they are going to relax. Thorax region comes back to its original position. Thoracic volume decreases, pulmonary volume decreases and air moves out. So during the forceful expiration, the abdominal muscles and internal intercostal muscle contract, and because of that the volume is going to decrease, pressure is inside is going to increase, whether it is going to decrease, and the air is going to be exhaled out. So this is what called as an expiration. Next, we are having a very important topic, that is your respiratory volumes and the capacities. So one by one we will discuss the respiratory volumes and the capacities. And the first, here we are having the tidal volume. The volume of inspired or expired air during the normal respiration, and it is about 500 ml, that is 6000 to 8000 ml per minute. So this is the tidal volume, and the graph will represent like this way. So this is the graphing representation of the tidal volume, in which we are going to inspire or expire the air during the normal respiration, means without any effort. The next is your inspiratory reserve volume or complemental air. So here the graph of inspiratory reserve volume is this peak. So this is the additional volume of air that can be inspired by forceful inspiration. This is tidal and this is the forceful inspiration. And it is about 2500 to 3000 ml. The next is expiratory reserve volume. So this is the expiratory reserve volume. This peak represents the expiratory, that is the additional volume of air that we can expire out by the forceful expiration, and it is about 1000 to 1100 ml. Next is residual volume. The volume of air remaining in the lungs after a forceful expiration, and it is about 1100 to 1200 ml. So this is the residual volume. This is tidal volume, which is under the normal condition. This is the forceful inspiration. This is your forceful expiration. Even after that, we are having some amount of air in the lungs that is known as a residual volume, and that plays a very important role during the uninterrupted respiration. So next is your inspiratory capacity. So inspiratory capacity means the tidal volume under the normal condition, in which we inspired after the normal expiration, and the inspiratory reserve volume. So total volume of air inspired after the normal expiration, that is tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. So this one is your inspiratory capacity, like this one, this and this one. Next is expiratory capacity, means the total volume of air. So this is your expiratory capacity of air expired after the normal inspiration, that is tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume. Next is functional residual capacity. So this is the functional residual capacity, volume of air remaining in the lungs after the normal expiration, that is expiratory reserve volume plus residual volume, and the value is 2100 to 23 ml. Next is vital capacity. So vital capacity is volume of air that can breathe in after the forced expiration, or volume of air that can be breathed out after the forced inspiration. So that is your expiratory reserve volume, your tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume. So that is what called as your vital capacity. And the value of the vital capacity is 3500 to 45 ml, and that is a very important, that is vital capacity of athletes or the sports are higher as compared to the smokers. Total lung capacity. So this is a total lung capacity from inspiratory reserve volume to the residual volume. So total volume of air in the lungs after the maximum inspiration reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, or simply you can say only the vital capacity plus residual volume, it is about 5000 to 6000 ml. So these are the respiratory volumes and the capacities. The next is your respiratory volumes and capacities, that is the part of respiratory tract from nostril to the terminal bronchi, not involved in the gaseous exchange. So here that is only the alveoli is being involved. So that is called as a dead space, and the dead air volume is about 150 ml. So respiratory cycle, that inspiration plus expiration. Normal respiratory breathing rate is 12 to 16 times per minute. The spirometer, that is respiratometer, to measure the respiratory rate. So this is, we can just blow in it and that will gives you the result with the help of these colorful balls. So with this we finish about the one step of our respiration, and in our next lesson we will discuss about the exchange of gases. So till then, stay home, stay happy. Thank you and have a nice day.